Greetings, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello, fantastic. Wow, loads of people streaming in. Compost Revolution is on. Brilliant. Okay, happy days. Just going to quickly share my screen with you all. Great.
Hello, folks.
Hello. Oh, we've got a John. Everyone, welcome, John. This is John, Compost John, everyone. He's the reason that we all call ourselves Compost as a first name. Some of us do. But yeah, John, it's great to have you here. Thank you for
Thank you for inviting me.
I first met John doing a composting workshop at the Green Gathering, where he literally turns all of the festival's food waste into like a compost heap the size of a double-decker bus and does a whole workshop on that. It's very inspiring. But yes, welcome all beings. I have a few slides to share with you, and then I would love to, please, if you would allow me, could I ask you all to open the Mycelium Network forum on your browser? Because I'm just going to share a few things that I think will really help us with communicating and finding our valuable spores of knowledge with each other. I was extra motivated to try and like make the forum work when I like rediscovered this this bit of news the other day, and this quote, you know, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. And this like idea that, you know, well, reality that all social media is just constantly stealing our data, and we are being kind of manipulated in various ways to the benefit of big money and billionaires, basically. So this forum has a lot of potential. So could I ask you to, if you could all please go on the forum. I know you might need to remember your login details, but what you want to get to is a place where you can just type Mycelium into your browser and it will always come up. You just type MY and Mycelium Network will just come up for you. All you need to do to that is to log in on your browser. And then I can show you how to complete your checklist. So you can all see my screen now. We've got all of these amazing members on the Mycelium Network. These are folks from all over Europe and even like on 3 continents. Look, we've got the map here. We can go to our Google map and we can see us all here. So got a few things I just want to quickly share with you that will help us get the most out of this space. So the first is, look, when I go down the list of members, very few of us have actually completed our profile. If you are on your profile now, if you have managed to make it to the homepage, then please click on the profile picture in the top right hand corner. Your profile picture, top right here. You with me? And you might have a green box on your screen, a green tab. Have you got it? A green little box on the right hand side? Yes. Click on that, and that gives you a list of things to do. You don't have to do them now, but what that'll mean is that you get way better interaction with this forum. Now, there was another thing I wanted to show you, which was how to edit your settings, because you can, anyway, what I will show you now is, check it out. So, you know, we've done these events for a couple of years now. So we made a gallery of them. So, okay, everyone, now you've seen the little green box and you know how to complete your profiles. Just quickly click on the homepage, because that's where it's easiest to find everything here. The homepage is like the feed, everyone's, you know, what everyone's talking about. So you can see at the top here, this is some new stuff. So we've got feed, content, events, chat, members, and Mycelium gallery. Okay, so content is interesting. This is how Mighty Networks wants us to engage, because hashtags are so useful for finding stuff. So these are the main hashtags that have been used in the forum community. There's community hashtags, there's complete composting hashtags, farming hashtags, soil science hashtags, tools and technology hashtags. So you can click on these and find the relevant posts that have been put on this in the history of the last few years. I really like going on the inspiration hashtag because, and I would encourage anyone to in their journey through the worldwide web and the metaverse and all of it to post anything that is inspiring to them here and hashtag inspiration because it will inspire others, and that's a really powerful thing. So this is everything that's inspired people searchable by the hashtag inspiration. It's just one of the hashtags. You can search for specific things and they'll come up, but like that, I just wanted to show you that that's a really good way to engage with the forum. Okay. Secondly, we've got the members here. If you can't remember who that amazing person was, oh yeah, that was the other thing. Go on the members tab here and follow everyone that you would like to follow. It's doing some cool things. Like, I mean, everyone that came to Martin's talk, I would recommend following Martin because then if he posts, you'll see what he's sharing about. So yeah, it's connecting. The Mighty Network is quite intelligent and it's connecting people to those people that share their interests. So you can write your profile here and the Mighty Network will help connect you with others. Yeah, so that's how to find the members. You'll be able to scroll down. If everyone writes a bio, then that would be really helpful because people can see the expertise, the knowledge we've got here. And then finally, the Mycelium Gallery. This is where we have linked all of the videos that have happened here before. So this is the whole archive of knowledge sharing, talks, webinars that we've done. And then secondly and lastly, there's the spaces. I know that we've changed these a lot. I'm sorry that's been confusing. We just didn't think there was a point in having spaces once we realized the hashtag archiving potential. So we reduced them quite massively. And now we just use the most used spaces are biochar, mycology, Bokashi, podcasts, and the funding space. So these are spaces to be in if you want specific updates. And we're going to try and feed them and get other mentors and people to around the country that are up for being more of a sort of organizing role in this space. So thank you. I just always wanted to help communicate how to use the forum, and I hope that's a bit helpful. Oh yeah, events on the left up here. This will be where you'll see the calendar of events at all times, and where we can join all the Zoom calls and the feed and the home are basically the same thing. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to return to presentation. I will unmute everyone now because I do like having the feedback conversation. Here we go. Welcome to new people. Ace. So I thought that we'd start today with, yeah, first of all, I thought we'd start by going from west to east. So we're going to hear from 4 compost clubs to sort of answer the questions like what they're doing, how they're doing it. I feel like we all know why we're doing the composting. For me, composting is the most sort of socially connective activity. I kind of see it like soul work. And I think what's so inspiring about it is that it brings people together for like a shared purpose and a shared resource. But it also addresses our most urgent ecological crises. The knowledge coming out about how much water can be held by soils with high organic matter, which can be provided by compost, is it's not just important, it's like a survival necessity. We're living in times where we've had like one of the heaviest rainfalls. Farmers can't grow anything and are all terrified they're going to get the lowest yields ever. Our soils are literally washing away to the sea, and yeah, really the best hope we have of changing this is to engage with farmers as compost creators and help them or offer our compost to them, and our advice, or anything we can without making them feel hostile towards us. And we can, obviously that's beyond creating our own gardens and growing as much food locally as we can. That's the first step. The second step is to try and get this biology back into fields to heal our water and our earth and all of the biodiversity that depends on those cycles. And then the third thing is that it's actually economic resilience as well. It can be worth a hell of a lot, as we'll go into in some of the talks. The biology in this compost that we can create uh, everywhere with the systems that these compost clubs are running with is so concentrated. It's so abundant and teeming with microbes that can go a very, very long way. And this is just a screenshot of the compost that the soil ecology labs supply. Obviously, they are one of the leading labs in the UK, and they've been selling their compost here for £50 for 5 litres. It's £10 a litre, which is extraordinary, and £104 for a 25-litre bucket. And that's because they work with farmers, and that's how much it's worth as an inoculum to restore the biology to those fields that the farmers are working with, and increase yields enough for that to be easily worth it. So it means that every bay of compost that we've produced is potentially worth that much money, and all we need to do is be able to supply the knowledge of how to get that much life out of it, because it's not just obviously wouldn't work just spreading it on the fields. Everyone's stuck in our time in the mindset of like, we need more compost, we never can have enough, and we're sacrificing the last of the peat bogs because people have this kind of quantity mindset, when really what we've got here is, Daniel from Soil Ecology Lab says it's the climate solution that makes all our food organic, and it's got 3.6 billion years of research and development and tested evolution. It's it's incredibly powerful, but what's missing is the knowledge, because we have come from the Second World War farming system, and that has led to the sort of chemical wisdom that is all farmers are now realizing isn't sustainable for them economically or ecologically, and they're being asked to put the hedgerows back after being paid to take them out, and all of this crazy stuff that must just make them so frustrated and feel like, I can only imagine how frustrated the farmers must be, and we're seeing it with the protests in almost every European country right now. So yeah, social resilience, ecological resilience, and then this idea that, like, many small people in many small places doing many small things can alter the face of the world. I believe this to be true, and I also believe Bill Mollison, the founder of permaculture, who said that if we just make the change from mass consumption to production, even on a small scale, just 10% of us growing everything we can, which includes growing everything we can for the soil life that's actually, doing that growing, aka composting, then there can be enough food for everyone. So without further ado, I'm going to go into a bit more about this in my presentation. I would like to pass the mic to Rosie. Rosie and Lara are the co-founders of Bristol Living Soil. Bristol Living Soil is awesome new compost initiative, community compost collective, starting a compost revolution in Bristol. So Rosie, would you like to unmute if you can? And I will co-host.
Hi everyone. We're just going to get the presentation ready. There we go. Great. So hi everyone. So I'm Lara. This is Rosie from Bristol Living Soil.
We're reading from some notes. I hope that's okay. So we're going to be looking down at the ground. Yeah, Bristol Living Soil is made up of a core team of the three of us. So it's me, Rosie, Lara, and Danny. But we've also got a group of volunteers and advisors, and we've also recently taken on an intern. Between us, we come from backgrounds in traditional craft, natural building, activism, group dynamics, community facilitation, permaculture, art and research. And my composting journey began back with Tom in, I think, January 2022, when I found a job for Old Tree Soil through the job centre. After graduating uni, and I was just typing in like permaculture, regenerative, even just typing in outside just to find anything nice, and then Old Tree popped up.
Cool. So Danny is an old friend of Tom's from climate camps. He was really inspired in the early days of Tree soil and wanted to try and see if it was possible to scale and grow compost collectives through an ethical franchise model. A key motivation was to build on Tom's original idea and place community and collective action at the heart of scaling and developing a network of hyper-local compost collectives. I'm an artist and researcher. I'm interested in finance and the way that finance shapes the world and the way we see the world. But I heard about this project through Danny, and I was really, really keen to be involved. I was one of those people that started growing food and making compost during the lockdowns. And the more that I did that, the more I wanted to do of it and learn. So with Bristol Living Soil, we have 3 guiding principles: regenerating the soil, rebuilding community, and sharing knowledge.
Focusing on regenerating the soil first, we create living soil from our members' food waste and have a few different options for people. So we've got Lara's lovely lino cuts symbolising each of our memberships there. Starting with protozoas, which is the drop-off service where members come to our site themselves with their buckets, and that's £10 a month. And then we've got the nematodes, which is a 3 weekly collection service for households in East Bristol, and that's £12.50 a month. And then we've got our earthworm members, who are hyper-local businesses and community organisations, and that's a kind of bespoke membership where we're in kind of constant communication with them to find the best membership. And yeah, everybody gets Bokashi when they become a member, so that they're kind of pre-composting the food waste before it gets to us.
Okay. So as part of our commitment to regenerating the soil, like part of that is the amount of the attention that we give to the process. So we weigh everything that goes in, and we keep a detailed journal of how the compost is progressing in terms of its smell, its colour, the texture, whether it's wet, whether it's dry. We tumble every day for the first 4 weeks, so there's plenty of opportunity to check how it's going.
And yeah, we work from the belief that diversity in the food waste that we take will create better compost. And we ask our members to leave some things out, like non-organic materials and diseased plants, but also ask everybody to cut things up as small as possible.
Okay. So as well as as well as creating the living soil, the community aspect is really important to us. So we're lucky to be working within a diverse and vibrant community here in East Bristol. Nonetheless, we're striving to build on what's already there.
We're based at St Werburgh City Farm and focus our catchment area in the 4 closest neighbourhoods. So we've got St Werburgh, St Paul's, Easton and St Jude's. And they're not only the closest to us, but the most accessible by bike, because Bristol is very hilly and we just are powered by our feet and on our bike. But yeah, we're closing the loop and relocalising the food waste and treating it as a valued resource. In time, we'll be returning it back to our members and community as beautiful living soil. And we're becoming known in Bristol for being part of the solution for changing the system that we've all become too used to. And we recently heard that Bristol Good Food Network are recommending us to businesses. And when I spoke to one of them the other day, who came to us because they haven't found a good solution in Bristol, he said that we're the solution that he's been looking for 10 years, which, yeah, it's just such a good little snapshot quote.
Amazing.
Great. So by putting on regular events and holding space for our community members, volunteers and a team to get together, we've already built up a supportive and engaged community in our first year. So the photo on the left is of our launch, which was in March 2023, and it's where we inaugurated the tumblers, having built them.
And we also held a crowdfunder last summer, which was a really great celebration of community. We were really overwhelmed by the support, with over 25 donations from all sorts of people in our wider network. We had things donated such as prints to veg boxes, massages, personalised poems and workshops.
We managed to raise nearly £3,000, which has enabled Rosie and I to pay ourselves for some of the work that we're doing, as well as buy a trailer, buy buckets, buy bokashi, and yeah, get some of the things that we need to work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to one of our other key principles of sharing knowledge, inviting the members of the Mycelium Network to give talks is something that we want to do more of in the future. So this event this evening feels like a really good place to start in connecting with the wider community. The photos on the screen, as part of our launch in March 23, Tom gave a presentation on composting for the future. And more recently in December, we hosted a biochar workshop with Nikki Scott. And we've also got a biofertilizer making workshop coming up in March with Matt from Ragman's Lane Farm, using leaf mould from ancient woodland to create an inoculant like bokashi.
So for anyone that's in Bristol tomorrow, we're screening a soily film called Dirt Rich that we watched a couple of years ago and wanted to share with other people. We only have 2 tickets left, but yeah, if you happen to be in Bristol, then come along. What we're gonna do, I think there's like going to be between 40 and 50 of us in the end, which is a lot more than I was expecting. But yeah, so I'll be cooking all day tomorrow and making a huge soup so we can all eat together beforehand, and then watch the film, and we'll have a short discussion afterwards. I guess anyone that wants to continue the discussion can always go to the pub.
And the poster in the middle is for an event that we've been invited to by Bountiful Bristol, which is an amazing community project in Bristol that grows food on, they kind of coordinate allotment sites, and they grow food on their plots to give to food banks and to give to projects. And the event is called Returning to the Soil. So it's about coming together and coming up with solutions and ways that we all work to care for the soil, which in turn cares for us and creates a more bountiful harvest for food.
Yeah. That final image relates to so St. Werburgh City Farm, where we're based. They have a huge festival every summer in June, and yeah, we're really looking forward to this because we'll get to speak to hundreds of people and lots of local people, and we're excited about yeah, sharing the project then. So yeah, and that's it, I guess. So thanks for listening. And if you want to follow us or join our mailing list or get in touch, feel free. We're really happy to talk more about the things that we've mentioned today. So yeah, that's it really.
Yeah, and we've got a lot more planned in the upcoming months. Our site is kind of in the stages of becoming very beautiful. We have a vision. Right now it's kind of got the essentials, but yeah, we've got a really grand plan for the design. So we're going to be hosting like volunteer build days, and yeah, just trying to reach out and connect with our community as much as possible. So if that's something that sounds good to you guys, then we'd love to chat some more. Yeah, I think that's it from us.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much, guys. I'm feeling like quite anxious about my scatty talk. So good, and just answered the question perfectly. And I'm just absolutely in awe of your how beautiful you've made it look, and like how much you've enshrined the values. And just your font, Rosie, is just so perfect for a compost club. That's Rosie's one. It's actually the Rosie font.
Yeah, all of our prints. So our logo there is one of Lara's linos as well, and those sketches that you saw throughout are Lara's as well. But yeah, together we like making it look beautiful. We enjoy the aesthetic side as well as the practical side.
Yeah. So cool. Well done. That was a brilliant first presentation. I hope you guys can use that again. And awesome. Well, I would love it if we could save, you're getting loads of praise in the comments, by the way. I'd love it if we save questions all till the end, mount them up, and we'll have a really big, juicy Q&A. So, right, moving across the map now. We're going to go to Frome, and that's Peter. Peter, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Peter. Right, you're going on speaker mode. Here we go.
Cool. Lovely to see faces I know and faces I don't. That's great. So I'm going to rattle through this without any presentation. And if we've got time, I'll show a rather gorgeous short film that we had made, which sort of summarizes what Luke Frome does. So my kind of background to this is that about 15 years ago, or my background to engagement in the community composting bit of this, is that about 15 years ago, I started something called Sustainable Frome, which is a transition town movement in Frome. And then that led, after a while, to an independent political movement. And then within that, there was a whole load of green stuff. And one of the things that I wanted to do within the politics, but I didn't do when I was a politician, was to do something about the fact that tons and tons of food waste left Frome every week and headed off in diesel lorries across Somerset in order to be burnt or composted. I was really unhappy about that. Well, I kind of saw it every week and wanted to do better, and obviously didn't. I was inspired by Tom, as most of us probably were and have been, and the whole Bristol compost movement. And at that time, there's an organisation which is still there, still here in Frome, called Adventure Frome, who were looking to set up what they call startup courses. So they take a bunch of younger people who do something. Actually, for over 6 months they set up a business, which is both a social enterprise. So it's a useful social enterprise. So I set up a community interest company to act as the client for a group of adventure students. So the students took on this challenge, if you like, to start a composting business. And very early into that, they kind of said, well, hang on a minute, as our food waste is collected free in Frome, the Brighton model won't work, because who's going to pay? Or it won't stack up as a viable business, because we'll never get enough households to pay enough. So we switched, or they switched, or suggested switching to restaurants and smaller businesses, and did the research and worked out how much we'd have to charge per bucket and so on. And that's what Luke Frome does. So Luke Frome was something which is the adventure, the name, the logo, all of that stuff, which is nowhere as beautiful as what we've seen already. But they created all that as Adventure Frome. And we got a grant from an organisation called Be the Earth, and with that bought an initial ride-down and paid for an initial electric trike. There's a company called Cycles Maximus based in Frome who make electric trikes which are particularly suited to Frome. Frome's even more hilly than Bristol, I reckon, on a smaller scale perhaps. But the real advantage of these trikes is that we could re-gear them so they'll take half a ton up Frome's hills. I say trikes because actually in the last few years I've had 4 of these which have gone on to different people. I've been part of regenerating and refurbing these. So anyway, we started off with a trike and 1 ride-down, and started collecting from the different businesses, carefully collecting how much weight or how much volume actually we were collecting, so that we know how much carbon we're saving, using as I say, these electric trikes, and then buckets that we got from a a organic health food products company, and then started making compost. And the first tests of those, which Perry did for us, who's on this call, showed a really great compost, which we were enormously proud of. And by this stage, we'd also built up quite a community. Part of what we wanted to do was to link the businesses together, because they were paying about the same for collection as they were to Viridor and other companies before. So this stacks up economically, because we charge the people who we're collecting from, the restaurants and so on, and then we charge people for the compost, who are mostly individuals, but then we've had some larger orders since. We've kind of grown a bit since that initial start, which is about 3 years ago now. We got a second-hand Rydan through Nicky Scott, and then a third one with some grant money, and a second trike, which we've just bought partly as a backup, but also because we want to do more circular economy stuff within the community. And in fact, we ran a whole sort of spin-off project bringing together people who wanted to do other stuff around a circular economy, so collecting other things that might be, it might be able to stay within Frome, is sort of the gist of it. So we pay, I think we pay £14 an hour now to the people collecting. So a little bit over the living wage, and we have a range of bucket collections from sort of once every 2 weeks through to 2 buckets a week, and that ranges for us from, I think it's 15 quid a week through to 50 quid. Sorry, what am I saying? 15 quid a month to 50 quid a month, depending on whether you have sort of 1 every 2 weeks or 2 every week, because some of these are bigger businesses. And we've expanded now into a range of Joras. We've got 5 Joras stations outside. We didn't want to keep going and just having more and more Rydans and more collection, and then one day a JCB and a field full of rats. We wanted to actually engage people much more in their compost making. So we've now got 5 Joras in sort of compost creation stations, very much again linked to the work that Tom and others have done in Brighton. So they're community based. There's one at the health centre, there's one in a new community garden, and there's one at something called Fair Frome, which is the organisation which does food boxes. And so that's what that's kind of where our expansion's gone into, Joras rather than collecting more. We've got a waiting list for companies who'd like and organisations who'd like us to be collecting, but we don't really want to. We're happy to keep it like it is at the moment, I think. And as I say, our initial compost was really good, and then Perry did some tests for us recently, and they were actually a contrast. We had one box which was theoretically anaerobic, which had bokashi in it, bran bokashi, and the other one which was aerobic. And we compared those two, but for various reasons we didn't do that very well. And the main reason we didn't do it very well was that the anaerobic wasn't very anaerobic. So I mean, there was air definitely getting in, not helped by rats having got in at one point, and wheedling air through the thing. So I'm not entirely that comparison, I would say, hasn't really worked, and we couldn't see a lot of difference. But we also found that what we've managed to do is not get enough fungi in there. We've got too much bacteria in relation to fungi, which is a bit of a disappointment. But talking to Perry and Tom and others, I'm almost certain, well, I increasingly think that's because in this same period, we switched to wood shavings, got a really good source of lovely, fresh, well, not fresh, but wood shavings from a place that only uses new wood. Well, it's a mixture of woods. And it's nice to make compost with, but I think what we've done in the process is by taking out the wood chips, we've significantly reduced the amount of potential fungal matter. So we need to address that, and that's one of the things we're kind of on at the moment. So Tom, if you can make me the, I mean, that's basically what I've got to say. I mean, oh, sorry, I'll just say one other quick thing before I say that. I mean, what we've proven is that you can have a viable business and it works in terms of money, which is great. And basically, we're making fantastic compost. So the new stuff is full of microbes of one sort or another. And as Perry says, we've still got 2,000 nematodes per gram and 700,000 beneficial protozoa. So I'm not unduly panicked by the fact that there's too much of a balance towards the bacteria. So we're making great compost. and we're sort of spreading the word in a way that's really exciting. Tom?
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. That was absolutely great. So cool to see. So inspiring that you're paying £14 an hour to do community composting. How you've done it, like engaging with the whole town, the whole sort of landscape of Frome. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So, all right, everyone, we're going from west to east. We've gone from Bristol to Frome. I'm now going to share a few slides about our compost journey. Can everyone see my screen okay? Yep, great, thanks. And okay, so yeah, my journey really is from like climate activism in Brighton to sort of compost activism, which I now see and regard as effective climate activism. Yeah, it's been absolutely inspiring to see all of the compost groups appear around the country in the last few years, and how they've done it with such just amazing, like, kind of creativity and inventiveness and skill, really. Like, you know, research. Like we didn't, when we started our compost club in Brighton, we just set up a website with a subscription thing and tested the water to see if people were interested in a compost collection in exchange for some food waste. You know, we didn't make the idea was already being done, like in loads of places on the US, around the US and parts of the world we were engaging with through Instagram, and we just tested to see if it would work in Brighton, and it turns out it worked really well in Brighton because everyone was sick of the food waste being sent to the local incinerator, which is still happening until 2030. And they just loved the idea that by paying us £10 a month, their food waste would be eaten by worms in Brighton and feed, you know. We had a saying like from Earth. We actually stole it from you, John. Thanks. It was turning rubbish into robins, and that was a winner. And it's so proven. Like the Joras, that for some reason, whenever you build a Jora, a robin appears. I don't know if anyone else has had that experience. I know Jess has, because I've seen an amazing picture of yours. I can't believe you got so close to a robin. I've tried so hard. But yeah. So compost is climate activism. This all is inspired by Elaine Ingham and informed by her work teaching thousands of people through the Soil Food Web School about, you know, nature's operating system, the foundation of kind of biodiversity on land. It's a complete revolution that backs up, you know, the way I think a lot of us as environmentalists think about the world, like more holistically than the sort of dominant culture and system we're all part of as well. But it sort of proves it in measurable terms, and I just think it's changing. Yeah, it's going to carry on changing everything, because that's what we need to combat a farming system that's so broken. So yeah, I have become a bit of a Joraform supplier because these things make very good, very biology rich compost. I kind of see them more as like bioreactors, because and they're just labor saving devices as well. Like you don't need a Jora to make complete compost. They teach you very well how to do it just with, you know, a pallet and a bit of wire mesh and some thermometers on the Soil Food Web course. But you can make one with a Jora with much less attention throughout your working week. And there's a step-by-step process where, you know, I just think of it as the hot phase in the Jora. Most of the plant matter turns into bacteria, and then there's the succession. And that's what I'm really interested in. It's like, for me, this composting is like taught me ecological succession starts at a microbial level. And like, you know, the Elaine Ingham's, like these graphs, that is ecological succession, and it's what everything else kind of eats, you know. And what the plant roots rely on is this cycle, this system, and we can all make the inoculant version of that with these compost tumblers. Rydan and Joras both make amazing compost, and that is what is required to create the conditions for biodiversity to return to land. And this is a universal phenomenon, and I believe that this offers us the greatest hope of reversing the desertification of much of Europe and the world's surface, and enable us to feed a growing population. So onto the Soil Food Web reports. So these are what I advocate we should all be doing with our compost, and you know, this is simply doing what the Soil Food Web have taught me to do, so that you can engage with farmers. So this is classic British. I've done quite a few soil tests on just bare soil in the UK. What everyone wants to do is take a bare field and start a market garden, and they either do it no dig or they do one last till. And this is just classic. I haven't really seen many bare fields that contradict this rule. Interestingly, I don't know why they don't come up with fungi. I thought grass needed 50% fungi. I think it's harder. There is a whole thing where this is more saprophytic fungi, which is what compost has so much of because it's decomposed wood, whereas in the soil, it's like mycorrhizal fungi, and maybe that's not so measured in these reports. Nonetheless, they're really valuable. And they're valuable because they tell you how much of an ecosystem you've got and how much nutrient cycling that can do. So this, and I've got something to say about your report here, Peter. Look at this soil. This is a really high score of bacteria. The recommended requirements are 135. You've got 6,582% more bacteria than is minimum requirement in this soil. But you've got no predators to eat it, you know? You haven't got any protozoa. Let's go to see some of the compost that we made. This is the setup we've got at my little farm. It's 3 rydans and 3 joras and a rydan. I use the 3 joras for our compost club, which is 28 members thereabouts. And that fills up 3 joras every 3 weeks, and a little bit of the rydan every 4 weeks. In fact, I use Bakashi now and do it 4 weeks on a 4-weekly cycle and get full 30-litre buckets every 4 weeks. And what's so good is that this farm is a community farm, and the rydan is brilliant for the community aspect. So because people at the farm also want to bring in their food waste and be part of the nutrient cycle, because they're going to be their veg is supplied by the farm. So the joras, I do them in a batch system where I take responsibility for making sure they're turned and filling them up and making the mix right. And then I empty them every 3-4 weeks. Whereas the rydan is always available for everyone that wants to bring in their own little caddy of food waste. So it's a continuous supply, and it comes out the other end. And then I just need to teach the members to add it to the windrow. But just going back to the biology. So look, this is some compost I made on this farm in only 6 months. I think it was even less. It might have been 4 months. So look, it's got way less bacteria. It's because the bacteria is being munched in this. When this report was taken, that bacteria is being completely digested by 240,000 protozoa and 1,600 nematodes per tiny little gram of the compost. So this is really good for putting onto the beds of that depleted bare soil ecosystem that my little farm have here, with just bacteria. This biology will eat the bacteria. And here we have Peter's sample by comparison. Peter, you underplayed your compost here. Like, yes, the fungi is low, but I've never seen more protozoa than that per gram. I believe that is 10,800,000 protozoa per gram. And they're all eating 10,000 bacteria per day. And that is kind of, I would suggest that is a very good compost for putting on a degraded field to get the succession rolling. So I just wanted to tell you that, Peter, just because you haven't got the F2B biomass, that's still really valuable for getting the process going. You know, it's like igniting the ecosystem in the soil and bringing about the secondary, you know, all those other metabolites, which will then feed the other life, which, you know, and before you know it, there'll be birds of prey catching frogs and all the rest of it. So yes, it's brilliant actually to have other numbers. You know, 3,400 nematodes per gram. That is a really good compost. And fungi will just come with time. You know, you did that after 3 months. After, was it 6 months? I think it was 6 months, which isn't very long. You could mature it for a year. and add biology as well, add mycelium, and obviously well rotted wood chips have more fun than them, pointed out. So this was my like revelation in Brighton. I've done a lot of community gardening, and this was behind here. There's a small ear cask which I planted a passion flower in. You can see in this top left picture, and I just added a bit of biochar and a bit of compost to this every like about every 3 months for a few years, and the passion flower turned into the Jumanji plant that just grew out of the pot and tap roots around everything and completely just covered the elderflower tree that used to exist behind it. And it harvested about 100 passion flowers from like one normal size like beer cask, about a 30-litre pot. And those passion flowers are one of the most expensive botanicals you can buy. And I think this just is proof of testament to the incredible surface area and diverse biodiversity of this complex of this compost. You know, that even though it had such a small growing container, it was able to grow so much. It was able to convert so much of the sunlight and the air into into high yielding, amazing medicinal crops. This was just the passion flowers. It also had passion fruits, and that's because of the microbiology giving the plant everything it needed in exchange for, you know, what the plant was giving it. So it's just so powerful, and we can create these abundant gardens, these like oases with this compost. I have I love like planting flowers, and I think if we could make the compost stations into wildlife sanctuaries as well, that would be a win-win, and we can get them. I just love the idea of like decentralized composting for communities, like what Peter's doing with Luke Frome. I'm trying to do that as well around Brighton. Only got well, there's two main compost stations that people use. I have two types of members on our compost club. I have in fact, I might show you. I'll just quickly share with you our process. So our process is we like to use Tim's bins wherever we can because they're so well made. And we have an amazing organization in Brighton called the Food Partnership that's been using climate resilience funding to invest in these stations, which Tim creates and I do some education around to kind of give people the why and the motivation to use it. I also harvest carpentry surplus. I make sure to always ask the carpenter that they only ever use minimal amounts of MDF. That's really important. If I mainly get it from hardwoods as well, because softwoods have antibacterial glues. You ask where your wood chips, your wood shavings are being made from, because it makes a big difference to the compost. This stuff that I get now is 90% oak, so it's really really good. And yeah, that's actually a dry materials store, so we make them as well next to the composters, because then people can keep the tools and the carbon dry in a store like that. Or I do like to store the carbon underneath, and then it catches the drips sometimes, and then put them in. So yeah, these are the sort of compost hubs that really just stage one design. They're basic. I get the wood out of a skip and I stick a bit of tin on it, and I make these shelters. I want to make them really good, like I'm really solid with a proper carpenter, and you know, maybe they could have like actual green roofs. Like, you know, these days you can just get green sedum stuff on a roll and just put it on. And really passionate about, yeah, we shouldn't be taking space that could be used for photosynthesis away. We should be just putting it on the roof. And yeah, so I kind of take the compost to these local sites, mix it 50-50 carbon and nitrogen, and then I wash the buckets with a pressure washer. I say I do it, me and Kwame share that job now. And then all of the compost that we make about, each drawer we find makes about a cubic. I haven't weighed it. I can't get scales to the compost areas, but it makes when I've bagged it up, it makes about 1,000 liters. Each drawer makes about 1,000 liters per year, and that's adding 50% food waste, 50% carbon, whether it's dry carbon, like in the shredded wood shavings, or from wood chips, which are often wet and often already growing fungi. And then I do add some shredded cardboard as a bedding material, for the worms. And I also add some I've added some grit in the past, a bit of sand, because I've read that helps the worms digestive enzymes, their digestive system, to sort of break down the stuff, because a lot of the time when you do empty the tumblers, they still have a cooked potato that wasn't properly chopped up, and other things that you want. The whole point of these tumblers is that they help get rid of the problems such as rats, and produce the really lovely compost. But that needs to go somewhere where the worms can quickly break it down further. So I want to help the worms. Adding some sand or some grit is a good idea. And then I sell the compost in buckets. I was going to show you the services that this is what I mainly do. I was just going to show you the website. I do these 4 different things. So there's a composting club membership. It's £10 a month. The reason I did £10 a month is because I don't want it to take too much of my time, and I do it monthly. People sign up monthly. I only go out monthly, and I aim to just do all of the collections in a day, and I find that way I can pay myself a reasonable amount of time, a reasonable amount for the work. So if a new person orders a bucket the day after I've done the food waste collection, I won't give them the clean bucket for 3 weeks later. But it's not the end of the world. No one's complained yet, and I sometimes do if I'm in Brighton, but I don't make a particular effort to go traipsing all across town just to get just because someone's cancelled or whatever. It's like, I found that doorsteps are a great place to store a sealed bucket. You can put it there, no one minds, and I can just get it on my next round. So yeah, and there's 2 options. I have about 25 of the house plants. They only get a 12-litre green bucket of compost per month. And then I have garden members. These are people, it's mainly the difference between people that live in flats and people that live that have a little bit of green space. So this is the compost that they get. That's a bit more full. I give them a bit less. I give them 12 litres if they pay £10 a month every year. And I give them like some information about how they should get the biology, how they can make the most of the compost. And you can see I put the soil food web reports from that compost here as well. And yeah, I want to describe it better. I want to sell the compost better, but I want to just get everyone using the compost. That's the first step. I do also make kits with biochar, and I want to do more of that, and do more workshops and supply the kits like that, and kind of sell to people in the cities that have money to help fund the sort of big project, lifelong project of like engaging with farmers, doing the extractions, all of this stuff that's going to require like fermentation equipment and extraction equipment. I want to invest the sort of money that the city can generate, and we can generate from this education in the city and this composting in the city into that. So yeah, the garden members pay £16 a month. They get 4 full buckets of compost. I don't have them anymore, but I also put those big white buckets. I fill 4 of them up and give them to the houseplant members, because £16 a month is quite a lot of money. And that's my rationale. I also have about 5 of these members who I literally just deliver a bag of carbon to, so that they can make nice compost. And I found that the places that have installed drawers, they need that kind of service. And yeah, that's it really. Oh yeah, giant earthworms. That's only £4 a month. I don't have many of them because I haven't got enough compost stations, but I've got about 8. And these are like local folks that want to bring their food waste to the composter. And that £4 a month just pays me to keep the composter maintained and serviced and fixed and stuff, to keep the tumbler. And I visit it monthly on my round and just check it's all good and give it a spin and occasionally empty it for them. So that's people that want to bring their food waste in. I think there's a real that's a whole really another composting business that you could do. And if anyone wants to get into that, I'm quite happy to sort of team up with supplying the composting tumblers, because it's yeah, it's something that I'm just doing because it's helping local compost. It's not like my dream job or anything, but yeah, it seems like it's helping people, and I enjoy every aspect of making compost. This is a quick little tip of like how to get higher fungi in your compost. Mycelium, you often find in wood chip piles, like they're completely running with mycelium, and that mycelium might be really, like it might be turkey tail, it might be a medicine, it might be an edible, it might not. But either way, I think you want to get a diversity of mycelium in your compost, and often if you've been using if it might not be there, so you can inoculate your compost. And then other top tip, everyone knows of bioreactors, and haven't got the time to go into them here, but I do think bioreactors are a really good way to go, especially for farming, because they do get the fungi up so well. But you don't need to do a vertical bioreactor with the posts, every foot in a big tower, because they're quite hard to unload and load. You can just put a pipe in the ground and then make a small windrow with your Jura compost. That was how I managed to get, in just like 4 to 6 months, the nearly complete compost here, which is actually really nearly complete. There's 0 to 3 years of complete compost, so you can see even the fungi is nearly there. And I was really happy with that for such a short amount of time. I did that with a tube in the ground and a small windrow and a wheelbarrow scale. That's my like favorite zone, if it's wheelbarrow scale, because it's convivial for me. It's like it's conducive to good work, and uses the whole body, and you can have a chat, and it's not like just one person and a machine, that like just seems to take all the joy out of it. Not that I'm against scaling it up for cities, but I do love this local community sort of aspect to it, and these ideas of like wildlife compost hubs. So yeah, and then finally, I do think that another aspect for the social composting movement would be working more with biochar, and I'm really excited to do more of this, because there's ways of like using the heat from making biochar, and there's just ways of like changing the culture around fire with making biochar, and making a fire kind of meaningful as the fourth element of life again. And obviously biochar and fungi are like partners, that it's like, I love the phrase bringing carbon home, giving microbes a home, because yeah, that's the sort of power of biochar, and it's really useful for making saleable compost as well. It adds value, and helps dry. It can help you dry the compost out, because otherwise it will like degrade your bag. And yeah, try and use all refill bags. Have a really good pressure washer. I got given a pressure washer the other day. Like, there's a really good one. I've always bought the like one that's like 80, £100, and just like it's if you can get a powerful one, I think it might be like £200. Keep looking on FreeCycle, because people close their businesses, or marketplace. If you can get a big pressure washer, it makes such a difference to how quickly you can clean a bucket. You can even get attachments that have spin things on them. That was a game changer for me recently. I didn't realize I've been doing it like by hand loads, having to scrub off the grease, but a spinning pressure washer head, it was a handy thing. Cool. Thanks for listening, everyone. So now I've got a special guest, which hopefully I'm going to introduce you to. This is my good friend Tim.
Okay. So is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was fortunate to fall into a job maintaining compost bins for the food partnership. They were quite early to roll out some schemes of just passive composters across Brighton. And at the point where I got the job, they had a fleet of bins, which were aging. But the way that those bins had been built was no longer possible, because the pallet crates that they were made from didn't exist anymore. So I kind of bided my time, continued to maintain those bins, and then over time developed a way of making bins that had to be secure and rodent proof and tamper proof because they were in inner city locations. And that kind of bin design has now been in place since August 2018. So some of the earliest bins are just having some of their lids replaced, but the bins have been incredibly robust, and have lasted really well. And I kind of make versions of them to go with, so for the kind of the output of hot processes, so resting bays, which are less secure. So you can vary the design. I have mixed feelings about just giving the design away, because it is possible to look at the bins and probably work out what I've done. But the design is there to be used, certainly if you can work it out. And the food partnership, I've been lucky to be funded my time to build the bins by the food partnership. So the food partnership scheme was running for some time. I've got some slides to show if it will work. Okay, yeah. So this is the food partnership's website, and they have been the driving force and managed to secure funding from the council, and then latterly City Clean, who are the kind of the waste contract with the council. So we have over 50 sites. This is the sites scattered across the city, and I've built over 140 of these bins. And as I said, so there's 140 of them. Some of them have been around since 2018, so they're really well tried and tested. This is what your typical site looks like, with 3 bins. Some of them are in churchyards, some of them are in in the grounds of schools. And the bin, this is the kind of, you can kind of see, this is the kind of an open front of the bin. You can see kind of how it's made using the pallet collars, which are these magic bits of plank connected by metal corners that just are pre-made. You probably see them in IKEA and Travis Perkins and Howdens and places. But yeah, the key thing that I did was standardize the design, and standardize so that we were always using the same pallet, the same collars, and then found a way of making them secure. And the key thing was rodent proof, although I have got an update on that. And so yeah, they're in Regency Squares. They're in areas with kind of groups of locals who are concerned about the appearance of the place, and that's around preservation areas and around parks. But we've been able to get over all of the objections and get them established across the city in lots and lots of locations. And we can do a larger bin. So we had more. It was more challenging to get the bottom of these 4-color bins aerated. But there are sites with up to 6 bins. So talking about 6 cubic meters per site. And this site with just 3 bins can potentially have 4 cubic meters on that site. So there's some facts for you. I think some of them I've already mentioned. We are actually entering a period of uncertainty because food waste is becoming a designated waste stream, and the Brighton Council are absolutely up against it and just cutting everything that's not statutory. We have lost our funding for next year, so we're trying to find, we're continuing the process to try and maintain the admin person who does 1 day a week, and myself doing the repairs, but then also to try and maintain to keep expanding the schemes. We were doing 5 sites a year, and that was an agreed expansion program that we had, and we wanted to move to 10 new sites a year. So that's an additional 30 bins every year. But we are, the funding's uncertain. Everyone loves the scheme. The people at the council and City Clean love the scheme. So we're continuing to look for other avenues of funding, and ways to try and keep certainly the current bins maintained and the administration. I think also part of the success of the whole thing has been that it's residents that request the sites. It's not the council or the food partnership imposing sites on people. It's people coming forwards and saying, we want to compost, we want a solution for this. We've got 10, 20 of our neighbours already on a mailing list, and it's those people that actually coordinate each of the localized schemes, with just one central person called training people, circulating caddies, worms, and all of those kind of things. So it's been a really successful project, and this is the kind of engagement that we have. This is an opening of a new scheme. It's often I often only see the bins, but there are hundreds and hundreds of people using the bins. And this was a lovely. We started making more and more of each launch, and it's when you actually start to see how many people are actually engaged in the process, and all the kids as well. I have now formalized the design, and I do sell the build guide, which comes with a parts list and tools list. And actually, we've just had, I think Diana's on the call. So this is the first, as a result of someone purchasing the build guide, this is the first new set of bins up in Lancaster that have just gone live. I have mixed feelings about just letting the design go, but I think that I will find a way to make a simple schematic that shows how these go together. And then obviously, if you then want more information and more of the benefit of my time over the years building them, there will be an option to buy a kind of a guided process off me. It's something I'm still working on, because I am obviously keen that people are able to access this design, but I just need to find a way to do it, which gives me a little bit of payback for the labor that I put into creating the instructions. So I hope that's okay. I'm happy to take any questions.
That's absolutely great. Thank you so much, Daddy. That's really fascinating. Just really cool to see. But we do have another presenter, so I'm keen to go across a little bit of the sea now to Jessica, who is Grow It Away in Amsterdam. And yeah, it's been really cool to meet Jessica virtually and see all of the composting kind of activism she's been doing in Amsterdam, running a really cool compost club. So are you there, Jessica? I'm gonna co-host you.
Based in Amsterdam, but I'm British.
Got you. Yes.
Right, let me share my screen.
In the list here. What are you? Hold on, Jess. Oh, you're co-hosted already. Great.
Also, when you heard the blender, it was really odd because like the blender was going off in my kitchen, but I've been on mute the whole time. And I was like, there's no way they can hear.
You're blushing. Good.
Okay, right. Hopefully it's the right one.
Brilliant.
I'm on a weird setting, so I'm just going to have to do it like this and ignore the border. So, Grow It Away is a small sustainable food waste collection and regenerative composting service, but we also run a little soil lab here in Amsterdam. Okay, what's happening? Oh, there we go. So yeah, I'm just going to give a brief overview and a bit of background, and then talk about the realities and the hurdles I've faced and a bit of the financials.
Great. Is that button below? Is that like a full screen button? Just because we've got your editor menu as well. Is that a full screen button?
I think it's saved as a.
That's okay. It's all good. Just.
So.
Cool. Crack on. Thank you.
Okay, so I started off in September 2021 as a community project, and then I launched it as an official business in January 2022. I studied at the Soil Food Web School, so I finished my certification for the lab technician certification in November 2022. So I started a soil lab, and I mainly test soil samples for some of the local urban farms around Amsterdam, because there's quite a few of them around here. And I'm currently doing the consultancy program with the Soil Food Web School, and undertaking one of Nicole Masters' more practical regenerative ag courses, just because I want to get more into the field work and explore regenerative agriculture a bit more. At the moment, Grow Away serves 25 households and 3 businesses around Amsterdam. One of the businesses is an office, one's a cafe, and the other one is a guest house, kitchen, fashion shop, which is a random mix, but I'll go into more detail with that one later. So why did I go into the compost business? I spent 5 years here in Amsterdam working as an ESG analyst for Sustainalytics, and I focused on the food industry. And that was all the way from agriculture through to packaging, processing, distribution, and then retail and restaurants. And we only covered the biggest market cap companies. So I was looking at McDonald's, Pepsi, Nestle, some of the big palm oil companies, and all of the big meat packing companies. And after 5 years, I felt pretty low, having looked at what they were up to in terms of not just the environmental impact, but the social impact and how they were governing their businesses. So it wasn't all bad, because I spent 5 years looking into the food industry and learning all about it and the sustainability angle. And one great thing that came out of it was looking at solutions, and soil health and regenerative farming and composting were huge themes that I kind of took away with me. And that's why I ended up studying at the Soil Food Web School. But the dream kind of took off when I adopted what my colleague called her pets, which were a bucket full of worms. And I took them home to my housemate, who had a serious aversion to anything nature related. And well, long story short, I managed to win her over by the fact that I composted all of our household waste. And she turned to me and said, you know, I would actually pay someone to do something like this. And I thought, oh, wow, this is amazing. This means I could have my dream job of working outdoors in nature, and I could be paid to do something good rather than being paid to, well, it wasn't fully greenwashing, but sometimes it felt that way. So I decided to pursue my dream of launching a compost business, and it was really helpful to do the Soil Food Web School to learn about hot composting and how to speed the process up. And then I came across the Compost Club and Old Tree Soil on Instagram during lockdown. And I thought, wow, actually people are doing this and people are paying for this service. So why don't I just give it a go? So I went and spoke to 2 of my local cafes. One's like just a coffee place, and the other one has a little food and fruit juice situation going on. So I asked if they wanted to sign up, and they said, absolutely, please, we'd love to compost all our food waste. And so I said, okay, amazing. I bought 1 tumbler. I set it up in a local park down the road, a little green space. Triggered all of the neighbors. They were like, what are you doing? I managed to annoy everyone just by setting up a tumbler. So the politics was a first hurdle for sure. But I didn't let it stop me, and I managed to win over the neighbors. So I carried on with the composting. But I found it really overwhelming, the amount of food waste that was being generated by just 2 cafes. So within a week, I was like, this is too much for me and my 1 tumbler. And I don't have the money to go out and buy a load more. And I don't have the space either, because I'm in a tiny little city garden. So I went back to the drawing board and decided to start with, sorry, my dog is beginning to cry. Okay. So I decided to go back to drawing board, set up a different system. So I went for households. So I would have a longer period of time between when I needed to pick up the food waste. So I decided to go with a 3-week collection schedule. And then I started onboarding people, and I left Sustainalytics. So I've been doing this now for 2 years. And yeah, it's been really interesting. It's been perfect to do it alongside my soil food web studies, and also like pushing me further towards, I don't know, more regenerative practices. And now I feel like I could go to a farm and, well, I have actually worked on a farm with Tim Williams and the compost, climate compost ladies. It's run by the land gardeners. So I kind of trying to merge all this knowledge now, and I feel just a lot more confident with it through running this, what was a project, but now is a small business. But the hurdles for me here in Amsterdam were access to land. It's really hard to get a space in Amsterdam city. There are loads of empty plots, but they've all been bought up, and they're waiting to develop them all. So I was very lucky to find a small sustainability community in the north of Amsterdam that agreed to give me a little space for very minimal rent. But the reality is that community won't be there for, well, we're not sure at the moment. There's an uncertain future because they want to develop that area as well. So I kind of have a bit of an issue with finding the right space, which would allow me to scale up more because I've maxed out the space that I have now. But the second hurdle is the regulations. So firstly, I need a license to carry waste, which is absolutely fine. And I managed to get that very easily. But technically, I need an environmental license for the amount of food waste I'm dealing with. And luckily, I applied to the wrong department for that environmental license, which triggered the municipality of Amsterdam to call me to say, you've applied to the wrong place, but probably for the better. We've discussed your project in-house, and we really like it because it falls in line with our 2050 goals of being a circular city. But basically, you're going to have to not be profitable, and you're going to have to you're going to have a huge focus on the educational side of things. And I think that was really helpful for me because I was putting a lot of stress and pressure on myself to make it into a business that would pay me a full-time salary and then also enable me to like hire people. But I just was coming up against all these challenges. So when they said that, I thought, you know what, I'll just keep it small and make it educational. And I actually found running workshops it just brought a lot of joy to me, and it's not something I ever thought I would do. I was teaching about soil microbiology and composting, but I've now run quite a few workshops, and I think that's probably the highlight of this whole journey so far, is the way people react, the way, I don't know, the things that they take away at the end of the day, watching children dig through the compost piles. And it's just really, I don't know, it's very valuable. So yeah, I took the financial pressure off of myself, and I realized this would just be a side gig for now. I'm more than happy if someone else comes along and says they want to drive it forward. That's great. But for me right now, while I'm studying, it's just the perfect setup. The other issues I have are weather. So I cycle around the city on a cargo bike. It's not hilly at all here, but it is damn windy, and sometimes you just feel like you're not getting anywhere. So normally I do most of the pickups on my own, and I spread it over 3 days, and by the end of it I'm kind of like a broken woman. And then on the other side of things, we have just serious downpours, and I do find it tricky with keeping the compost at the right level of moisture. And also it kind of drowned through my tumblers, and I'm assuming that's why some of them have now warped. So I've had a bit of trouble with that, and I have to admit I'm not a handy woman, so I haven't been able to like build nice structures around it. And I found it very difficult to find people to do that for me, because it's very hard to find woodworkers around the city or carpenters. And if you do, they're very expensive. So that's been a little bit tricky for me. The last thing, it wasn't a hurdle, but it was drawn to my attention by one of my great friends who joined Grow It Away as my kind of strategic vision keeper and legal advisor. And she said it'd probably be good to have a contract in place when customers sign up. And she's right. It's been really useful just in kind of knowing what's what, you know. So if someone's like, oh, I want to skip next week's collection, can I have this month's pay? Like, you know, I don't want to pay this month. And you're like, oh yeah, but yeah. So it's just been really helpful in knowing where my boundaries are and yeah, what's good for the small business that I have now. So I don't have people through the summer just all disappearing and then I've like completely lost my income for that month. In terms of financials, we have 25 households, 3 businesses. I haven't really promoted it. It was mainly through, you know, word of mouth through my friends and some of the urban farms that I go to. We put up a couple of posters, but I also put up a 6-month compost service at an auction at an urban farm. And that generated a lot of hype and it was really nice, actually. I got, I don't know, like 5-6 customers out of that. So if there's ever an auction opportunity, it's a good thing to do. General subscription is €15 a month. The guest house pays me a lot more because I go and manage the composting system on site for them. So they paid for their whole setup and I just copied a similar setup to the one I have here. And every 2 weeks I go in. They generate a lot of food waste because they are a kitchen cafe. And then I manage that for them. And then I will apply the compost when it's ready in the springtime. And then, yeah, keep on going with that. And then the extra gigs, so running the workshops around the city, but there's seasons to this. So mainly spring and autumn is when I get requests for that. And then the soil microbiology examinations, I charge about €65 for one. But again, that is seasonal. I haven't yet explored grant and subsidy money, but there is a similar business. It's not a business. A similar setup to Grow It Away, but you take your food scraps to them and they're dotted all around the city, but it's a free service. And this is the name of them, Afel Naost. They're completely funded by subsidies. So that's how, they rely on volunteers. I don't know if they're able to pay themselves much because normally they're paying for equipment, but yeah, I know that there is grant money available because I know that Afel Naost exists because of that, that backing. And then, yeah, so my costs are quite low-ish. Yeah, they are. My rent's €25. My bike rental is €40 a collection. I would love to buy an electric bike, but I think I would need some backing for that one. It's about £5,000, I think, around here. I was buying bags of wood chip in at around €250 every so often, but I managed to switch that for free wood shavings. And I found that the wood shavings are just making a much nicer compost at the end of the tumbler cycle. But now I've heard the fungal thing. I'm going to keep an eye on it and see what happens, because I've only just switched to wood shavings as of the last 2 months. Just some nice pictures. I always buy my buckets secondhand on Marketplace, the Dutch equivalent, for like €2 a pop. And I actually have had quite a few stolen from the street, which has been very upsetting. So I like to do the switches on the front door, but then when they started being stolen, it kind of put me off. So now I'm a bit more stressed about like trying to get them into the house, get the buckets in, like somehow. I had a really nice compost guide made by an illustrator in the UK, but I took all the information based off of the compost guide that I was given with the tumbler. And this is my rickety old cargo. It's good exercise. And then, yeah, this is the visuals. Yeah.
Love them so much. I want to buy those visuals off you, please. They're so great. Or just, yeah.
Yeah, you can use them.
Sure.
Well, we can talk about that.
Look at the egg. The egg is so great.
I love them all.
Yeah, they're all perfect. Oh, thank you so much, Jess. Is that it?
Yeah.
Amazing. That was so great. Thank you for sharing everything. Yeah, really cool to see how it works in a different country. And yeah, well done for like getting through those hurdles. It's like,
yeah. Well, the regulation, this is the problem, and this is why I wanted to know from the others about, it's different because I'm here in the Netherlands. The problem is if I scale up at all over a certain litre of compost every year, I have to become a waste company, and then I have to report everything that I pick up, like all the finest details. I have to pay a lot for the licensing, and I was like, it's just not worth it right now. I think I would need like an investor backing the business before I like debated scaling it and going for it properly as a proper waste company. And again, I was
it's probably
like, question of like, is this what I want to do? So
but it sounds very similar. Like there's no job that you can choose on any of the like official, the insurance websites or the government websites. There's not like, compost maker or soil health coach, or there's nothing. You're basically in waste management. That's what it is. Which is just testament to where our culture is at on the whole. Just doesn't see the value in it. In the UK, it's there's a hierarchy of 8 things, and composting is 5th, along with anaerobic digestion as like the 5th best thing, like almost the last resort. What to do with waste. Anyway, fantastic. There's been a lot of questions, and I'd really like now to open it up. I'm going to put us on gallery view, immersive view. We're going to go full immersive. Okay, how are we going to do it? Like, stop. Okay, that's better. Great. Hello everyone. Nice to see your faces. Yeah, if everyone is invited now to unmute and have a conversation, I can if I just do it the old-fashioned way, put your hand up if you're really itching to ask a question. Got about 20-25 minutes. And let's ask every question that we might want to ask. I can start with some that have come up in the thread, unless anyone wants to put their hand up and take the mic. Yeah, we've got a question for Lara and Rosie. Could you guys explain for Finn, who is in Mahuntlith in at the Centre of Alternative Technology? Could you explain for Finn what you meant when you said franchise, please? So she's asked specifically, can other new and little community collectives join in with your brand and with your project, and how would that work?
Okay, so that's tricky because we were kind of speaking Danny's words, because this idea of ethical franchises was Danny and you and him have experimented together. So I almost feel like it's a question maybe better for you. Danny couldn't make it today. But yeah, we've gone through a process. You consulted, we hired you essentially as a consultant, no?
Yeah.
And you're supporting us trying to constitute currently as a CBS. And so yeah, I feel like that's some of it, but is there more?
I think, yeah, well, we kind of saw ourselves as a offshoot of Old Tree Soil, and I think that's how we. Oh wait, Tom, what did you say?
The question was, Rosie, is specifically your branding, the way you've done, how you've presented Old Tree Soil is really desirable, and it might be that is a better design for you know, perhaps it's the best design you know, in the network, and others would like to join it, in which case, you know, maybe that's just something you guys want to think about, like, because I'm not I just want to run this knowledge sharing supportive community with the forum, and help people get set up and confident and enthusiastic about it. But I don't see myself as like having what you've got, which is, you know, potentially, you know, people do buy into other people's projects to use the identity and have that. So yeah,
I mean, it's something we I think we'll come to figure out. I feel like we're still in our first year, so we yeah, I feel like we're very new. We're still kind of figuring ourselves out, but we would love to have more people setting up compost clubs, whether that's like kind of consulting them to do it their way, or
whether it's simply like, I mean, I'm an artist, I'm really happy to be hired as an artist. I've done obviously all of the visual, like together we've done the visual identity for the project. I will be leaving all of that work within the project, but with an understanding that it kind of stays within, unless, you know, there's any further agreements down the road. But like, I can always make more linos. There's always more images to make, you know.
Yeah. But I just wanted to add to that. Thanks for sharing, guys. Yeah, I do think there is a franchise aspect here, which like is unique, as a unique possibility to this network, which is a bioregional, a growing bioregional network where we could all make complete compost and supply it locally wherever we are, and that could just be a team effort, communicating, you know, potentially with tools we don't even have yet, and actually supporting all our, you know, creating a demand for this valuable material and supplying it locally, but across the network. And it could cut out a lot of emissions. I see in hauling. It's, you know, with all of these low shelf life products, whether it's food or in this case soil biology, it doesn't transport or store well, so it'll always have to be local, and that's really exciting. And that's why I see Tim's bins as like treasure chests of the future, where, you know, we can there really is like an amazing results from using complete compost, where you can just turn parklands into gardens with, you know, more success than any other growing amendment. So yeah, John.
So I want to talk about paperwork. I am a registered waste carrier, which means you pay 150 quid, and then you're a registered waste carrier for 3 years, and you carry a little card with your name on it. So I'm happy to do that, but I have a real difficulty doing all the paperwork. I'm autistic, and I find paperwork is an absolute nightmare, which is why I didn't ever do I'm a qualified environmental health officer. So I qualified in '95 and never worked as an EHO because I can't do paperwork. I'm really bad at that, being organised. So I'm just wondering, what you're supposed to do is to offer the person giving you the waste a piece of paper with all the details on it, and you keep a piece of paper with all the details on it, and don't tell the Environment Agency or anybody, but I don't do that. I've just got my little card saying I'm a registered waste carrier, and I just hope I never get stopped. And where's your paperwork? So what do other people do as with regards to fitting in with the legislation that if you carry waste, you have to do? And also somebody recently said, oh, you've got a ride-on now, you might have to change your exemptions or something like that. I have an exemption for taking packaging off food. That's the only exemption I have. Anyway, if that makes sense to you, great. If it doesn't, sorry.
Yeah, it's just a big old question, John. There's complexities around the ABPR laws, which have been delved into on the forum lately. I could tag you in a conversation in a thread where you can see everything that's been shared on that. I'd like to propose that. Certainly, Martin has educated us here about the new composting legislation. What's it called, Martin? The PAS 100. PAS 100 that's coming in about selling compost, carrying compost. I mean, so far, the only thing we've found here, I think it was with you, Julia, wasn't it? It was your friend that got in trouble because of the coffee thing, but it wasn't her that got in trouble for collecting it. It was the business that got in trouble for giving the coffee without having on a paperwork that showed it was being collected by a legal waste person. So that's a fall we've had here. But I mean, no, there are no compost police going around being like, what have you got in those buckets? Like, is it food waste? No, I don't think that is a thing in this. I don't think anyone's got the time, and no one is not going to be worth funding that kind of thing. We're just, moving stuff from A to B and going on about our day. Unless anyone's got any sort of other experience on that. My personal perspective is that we shouldn't lose sleep over it and just carry on and make compost, basically.
Yeah, sorry. My understanding with compost stores looking into it, if you've got a waste management license and you're carrying less than 10 tons on site, there is no issues. What I would say, I mean, just to make you aware, if some people don't know who I am, my name's Martin. I work for a company called Agriton, and I help with Bakashi on the forum, a bit more understanding about that side. And we are in talks with compost rules, regulations, because we create a soil improver ourselves, and there's quite a few new rules and regulations coming through for composting, which is happening now. So in 2 years' time, that will be policed by an EU directive. So when you claim something, you'll have to then obviously prove it, which was what Tom was on about. But I think the thing is with all these rules and regulations in the UK, the honest answer is all the rules and regulations, even PAS 100 and PAS 110, are from the European regulations and not actually UK rules. And even the new ones that are coming in are going to be EU directives. Talking to EHO and DEFRA, because we now have direct contacts with them through my colleague Andrew Sincock, who's a Nuffield scholar. He's had a great conversation with DEFRA in respects to food waste and food management and kind of that composting system. Is the be all and end all is they don't have enough staff out there to be able to police it. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't be, worried about it, but actually, in respects of, issues, I doubt you're ever going to get. You're going to be very unlucky if you do get a thing. But from our point of view, we as a company have to have ins and outs of everything because we deal with animal feed, so we're UFAS registered, so we have to deal with everything when it comes in and out of premises. I don't think it's a bad thing having some paperwork collecting stuff because obviously just shows an audit trail, but yeah, that's my thoughts.
Brilliant, thank you, Martin. That's great. Hello. Okay, we've got I'm going to go to Menno first.
Actually, Peter has got his hand up as well.
Oh, have you, Peter? Was there a direct response?
So we've got a spreadsheet, John, that I'm very happy to share with you. It's incredibly simple. I mean, it's just an Excel spreadsheet that we do stick everything into, so we know what we've collected in volume, which converts to weight and so on. And we use that for fundraising, partly because you can show how much carbon you're saving in that. But otherwise, I'm with Martin and Tom. Keep your head down, and it's fine.
Brilliant. Thank you, Martin. Peter. Menno, we've had your hand up, been up for a while. Sorry, I know you're.
Thank you. Yes, we are Menno and Betty from Amsterdam as well. We are currently setting up a compost club. We have some contact also with the municipality, and this whole problem, these legal problems of transporting, etc. Really makes our blood boil sometimes. Actually, what you want, especially right now, to have small-scale installations everywhere in each neighborhood, is actually this. It's not stimulated I mean, of course, you can keep your head low, but that's not what we want, right? At the moment, we are in a very important situation that, because of the European pressure, which is good, every city in Europe is trying to find a solution. And if this legislation is not good for small-scale solutions, then of course we know what will happen. The big-scale companies will win this, and we will have more difficulties to keep our head down and do our thing. But in Amsterdam, we have, like, as Jessica told, different departments, a little bit fighting with each other. The environmental department and the waste department. And the environmental department, they have a European project, Circle Law, and they have some legal experts looking in this problem, and they said that if compost is being transported, or even waste is transported within the neighborhood, legally it might not be considered to be transport. So with a little bakfiets or transport bike, for example, it might not be legally transport, which is like a great opening. But it's time to lobby. And my question was, in fact, to you, all of you, if we would consider, if we would lobby for small-scale composting. And of course, you have like, okay, what is then small scale? What size? I mean, Martin mentioned 10 ton per year. I don't know, per month. But what kind of quantities you are thinking of could still be small scale, in the sense that that you can handle it like in a way that you don't need those enormous complicated installations, and you can just do it with your tumblers and etc., without causing water pollution, etc. So I'm very interested, because then you could still, if it is 10 ton or 50 ton, maybe you can make a viable community business out of it. If it's only 1 ton, 1 tumbler or 2 tumblers, I don't think that you cannot make a business out of it unless you are combining it with educational projects, etc., etc.
Great question. So, thank you. Yeah, so Martin's direct responded to that on the clarification, your last question there, and said that it's in the UK it's 10 tons at one time per on-site per process. So I take that as meaning that you can have multiple sites where you're making 10 tons of compost. Is that right, Martin? Yes.
Yeah, so as long as the postcode is different, so as long as the address is different, Environment Health, when I asked this question, they said it's 10 ton per process. And I was like, can you define process? So defining the process to Bentley said, I have got an email somewhere that I can share on the forum. I will take that as an action from Environment Health saying that. So that's from Devon County Council. So it may be different in other council areas in the UK, but their thing is they said thermophilic or any other process, as long as it's 10 tons in each process, then that is acceptable.
Brilliant. That's very helpful. Thank you. So yeah, you could have 10 tons of Bokashi bins, 10 tons being made by Joras, 10 tons maturing in other ways, as long as they're in different locations. And you can do that under one business. You just have to have 10 tons in different postcodes.
To be honest, the big one for them was past 100 and making sure it's over 55 degrees for 14 days or 65 degree. No, sorry. 55 degrees for 14 days or 65 degrees for 7 days. And as long as you've recorded that as a thermophilic system, that's past 100, and that will get.
I want to make I think I want to make like a card, like a Pass for 100, like card that we could just post up, and so everyone can, say that they're doing that. Yeah. Okay, great. We've got two more questions. We will try and answer that more. Sorry, did you want to say Betty? I just want to actually thank Betty because I think Betty's the reason we're all here. She asked on the forum. You did. You said wanted to ask some questions about how to set up a compost club, and that gave me the idea to like invite the compost clubs to say how they're doing. So thanks, Betty.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something as well as Menno? Just that we could, yeah.
I actually have 5 million questions, but I'm just gonna stick to the. So I was curious about if you guys compost flower cuttings, because apparently there's a higher pesticides and people are asking about if to compost or not. And the second one also maybe for Jess, the whole situation with meat, because we don't do meat because also of the regulation, because we are hoping maybe we can give it out. So that I would be also curious about how you handle meat in the compost, if you do it or not. And the other thing is about measuring, that when you measure, so do you also measure what you put in on carbon? So if I would like how to say, track it, do I do like I put in one bokashi in a tumbler and then I did also the carbon one? But I'm gonna just stick to those questions. Thanks.
Great, that's great. Anyone would like to answer those? Peter, would you like to you had a question anyway, would you maybe answer a couple of those for what you do?
Quickly answer some of those. So I mean, we do about, going back to your previous question, we do about 9 tons a year. I've just looked at the spreadsheet, and that's a viable business that works, paying reasonably, as I mentioned before. Ours is nearly all veg, a little bit of meat and fish that sometimes creeps in, and that's how it is. And what was I just going to say then? There are some official UN figures which we put in, so we use volume because that's easiest to count the buckets. And then there's an official, I can't remember, I'd have to have a look. It's either a WHO or a UN figure of conversion to weight. And then there's conversion of that to CO2 equivalent. Anyway, I'm happy to share the spreadsheet. I can put it on the forum. I mean, we have a spreadsheet that you just plonk in for each customer, how many buckets, and the answer comes out as how much carbon and how much weight and all the rest.
Brilliant. Thanks, Peter.
Can I jump in with a couple of answers just from the Amsterdam perspective?
Yeah.
After my call with the municipality, they said I could carry on doing my project if it was educational, but also I had to stop taking meat and fish. So I told everyone not to put meat and fish in, but if it happens, I don't like scream about it, so the odd chicken bone is okay. But I also find that most of my customers are mainly vegetarian, so it's not been too much of an issue. On the flowers, I believe in the soil food web teaching that the right biology will break down the pesticides to deal with it in lower concentrations and store it in a less harmful manner. So again, like I do take flowers, but I will not take eucalyptus and some other types of flowers that have antimicrobial properties, because I found some of these were bringing down the heat dramatically versus other compost piles. So it's good to know what types of flowers have those antimicrobial agents.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Jess. Yeah, I just to echo quickly the soil food web. Yeah, there's some really good knowledge about how quickly toxins can be broken down by the biological reaction of the thermophilic composting process, and then also really great information about worms and how readily they can also break down, not just toxins but pathogens. So I would take flower cuttings, I'd shred them, and I would treat them like a kind of green brown. Cool. Rosie and Lara, you guys had a question.
Yeah, I had a question for Tim, because he said there was more information on the rat proofing of the bins, because we've just built our maturation bay, and it looked like one of your photos of the bins had like just straight up veg in there. So I wondered about the rat proofing of that, because we're on a city farm who are really they're really on board with us having the drawers because they are rat proof, But yeah, there's a few question marks about the bays because of the rats.
Great, thank you. Rosie, would you like to direct answer that, Tim? You're still muted, Tim. It's like your mic, you're actually not muted. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So I did actually forget to come back to that, because we have been rat-free with the way that the bins are treated, apart from one site just ignored some rats who just sat on the lid and just literally chewed their way through the lids. So I think if I can share my screen again, the great thing about the pallet collars is that they have these metal corners. So by filling in the pallet at the bottom, putting a layer of weld mesh across the bottom, and then also putting weld mesh on the first collar, the combination of that bottom protection and low collar protection, and then the corners, has, apart from this one incident of something literally chewing its way vertically down through the lid, has been successful. So yeah, that's what I do, and that's what's worked. Apart from this one exception, what I've now done for those bins is I've meshed the lids, and it seemed, unless the rats learn to abseil, that should cover it.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, so Tim puts slats of wood in between he gets Euro pallets and puts slats of wood in between to make them, they still drain a little bit, don't they, Tim? But they, there's impossible for any kind of rodent to get through, even if they could get through the mesh. Thank you, Tim. Yes, this is really good questions. I feel like I want to answer. Yeah, okay. Eddie's got a burning question, and anyone that's got any other answers to the questions that have already been asked, please don't hesitate to put your hand up too. Eddie, far away.
Okay, am I unmuted? Yes.
Yeah.
Good. So, yeah, I've got loads of questions, but I just wanted to say a couple of words about what actually being here this evening has done for me, and sort of like moving me from where I am to to what's going to happen in the near future. Okay, so we're just about to buy into a Dura tumbler. We've already got a ridden container that we've had a year of experience with at a nearby community centre, which has a basic bank. So we've got quite a lot of experience on using that. But what I'm realizing from this evening is that once we get the tumbler and maybe a wooden box as well, and put it in our back garden, which is open to a driveway, well, we live in a small village, and it's maybe about 300 addresses in the village. That's it, So, I can see that it wouldn't really take that much to start servicing the village, because, there's actually opportunities at various sort of village clubs and church and pub even that, I can just like contact people face to face. And so, initially it wouldn't be like a massive income or anything, but if some money started coming in as well, that would just be like so encouraging. And just as a model for working with a small community, it's like we've only got everything. I don't see what else we're lacking except just getting up and doing it, really. So that's really quite exciting to me, and it's something I never really thought about, just servicing our little village, because I was always thinking, well, we'll go out to Winchester and start working the restaurants and stuff like that. But actually, keeping it really small and focused on just really where we live, that could be just really doable in quite a short space of time. So Laura, Rosie, Jess and Tim, I just wanted to thank you for that kind of like moving things forwards for me a bit. So that's really basically it.
Thanks, Eddie. Any questions? No worries if not. That was a lovely comment. Thank you.
Just one last question. Do you guys know why on the website of the Yora it says not to fill up at once? And when we build normal hot compost, we build it at once. So do you fill it at once? Because that would be so much more practical than just doing this little thing.
Does it say that on the Jura website, not to fill it at once?
Yeah, so that's what I read. So maybe
Really interesting. I mean, that's obviously, I mean, I think one of their biggest selling points is that because of the two chambers, it's a continuous flow system. I mean, I guess the only reason they say that, so Jura are basically making, they don't want people to fill them up because the temperatures can get too hot depending on what mix they've done. So I wanted to respond to you, Jess. I think if your Juras have warped, that will be because well, we found it's because of temperatures. When the temperature goes over like 75, so too hot basically for good soil food web composting anyway, and that temperature the insulations aren't designed to resist. So I imagine that they're doing that because they don't want people complaining, and they want to protect the material. Just a quick note on that, I can get the materials, the insulation, and I've already supplied some to Peter, and I'm up for doing it at like cost price for the members of the network. And obviously they're cheaper in Europe because we have to pay silly import duty. So it would be easier for you guys in Amsterdam to get them straight from Jura, with your, straight from the supplier. But yeah, it's something that has to be factored in, like the breakdown of the insulation inside the Juras. I found that in Brighton, where I wanted to change one every 5 years, that was the first one we had where we were using it quite like testing it out, testing its limits. I think that how they have been upgrading the insulation, and I've noticed it's coming like in lead, and it's more lead sort of fiber now, for sort of polymer materials. So yeah, I would say cost in replacing the insulation. I think it would probably be about £80 every 5 years. You could put down as a sort of cost for replacing it, and that doesn't include the labor. That's just shipping the insulation to you. So that's one thing to consider.
Just
Great.
make sure not to fill it over.
Yeah, sorry. Also, just don't fill it above. I fill them up to like 60 to 75%, but it does say another reason they put is like don't fill it above the central bar, and that's again to like make sure people don't get them too hot and warp their insulation. So, but you can fill it higher. I do. I still test the temperatures. I've had one for years that's still producing 60 degrees for several days after about two or 3 days of 2 days of filling it up. The temperature still goes really high and stays there. So yeah.
Weirdly, I found if I had it at 50 or 40%, it would have a better level of temperature, like a more ideal temperature. Whereas when I fill it up to 70 plus, I don't get such a good temperature and it doesn't break down so well. So I actually think the extra room for the oxygen is really helpful.
Yeah, it doesn't tumble so well, does it, if it hasn't got that extra room? Like, yeah, that's one thing I found about the smaller ones, actually, the JK270s. Yeah, you don't want to, it feels like you can fill them up more because they're smaller. There's not going to be such a high heat that could like damage the insulation. So it sort of feels like you can, but ultimately you just don't get as good a tumble. So yeah, I spin them more if I filled them higher. Yeah. Any other questions? Diana, you haven't asked a question. Have you had a? Sorry to pick on you.
Sorry, I don't really have all the questions I was going to ask have already been asked by other people. I'm just really interested. We're in the middle of doing, we're just finalising a feasibility report in North Lancashire, looking at collecting food waste from businesses and composting it locally. And one of the different models that Amy, who's been doing the research, has come up with has been like a couple of different more larger kind of models, but then the two that have come out that look the most feasible are much more smaller. And one is more business, so like a network maybe of compost clubs across the district, and then the other is more people doing it for themselves. And I think it's a really interesting I'm not quite sure, but a really interesting thing between sort of people making a business out of it and people and communities doing it for themselves and being self-reliant without any other sort of support or anyone else coming in and doing it. So I think it's and how those two things could play along and support each other, or whether they would sort of compete with each other. But yeah, I've got loads of my questions around regulations, you know, and you know, if we're writing this feasibility report and we're saying to people, we're saying in it, you really, if you're going to do T23, you need to do past 100, and what does that really look like if you're small, and yeah, all of that sort of stuff. So it's kind of trying not to tie myself up in knots. So what you were saying, Tom, and I think Peter as well, and yeah, it's just really heartening to hear. And I think if we're doing soil testing and just recording the temperatures that things get to, then actually we're covering ourselves, and that's all we really need to worry about. So thank you. It's been really informative. It's a really, really interesting, useful evening, very inspiring. So thank you for organising it. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I've really enjoyed tonight, and yeah, I think just absolutely brilliant. And the last two comments, I love the ideas here that have been generated by Lara and Rosie, saying, is there a Compost Club starter kit on the network? I think that would be such a good thing. We should collaborate on, all the Compost Club organisers. We could maybe co-design that. Would be really, really influential, I think.
Yeah,
and
because
then,
I started to draw one up just to kind of wrap my head around what tools I want to buy or we want to buy. But then, yeah, I was wondering if each of us made a starter kit. It'd just be so useful.
Yeah. What tools to buy is super good, and then the links, we could share the links of you know, where to get the best price and the good, you know, great idea, and let's do it. And then secondly, I just want to say brilliant idea, Eddie, who says that we need to have a session on the pros and cons of anaerobic, aerobic composting, as we were both talking about that all the time. So yeah, we have not really mentioned that we are using a two-stage process. A lot of our compost clubs in the UK here, we're adding bokashi to the buckets, which is I forgot to share. I had a really great picture of what a good bokashi mold looked like. I wanted to share that. That's what I look for, because I kind of think, right, because I can't monitor the inputs of what I'm getting. Some people adding meat, it's mainly just veg clippings. I wanted to show what good inoculated bokashi looked like. Another one, but that can be in the next session that Eddie suggested, where we could do a like anaerobic versus aerobic fermentation sort of symposium, and we could have the case for both and then like discuss. And yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. Yeah, nice one. Thank you. The comments are really valuable actually this time. I know that they do save, so I'll try and share them, or encourage everyone to sort of, yeah, go through and take screen grabs. Oh, we've got people on the call too. Brilliant. But yeah, just final say, if you have any more questions, put them on the forum. Just put @ and then the person's name, and it should come up linking them. Do that all on the homepage, and then we can start new threads, conversations that'll be stored. Put a hashtag in if it's like, you know, pure temperature, put it in, it'll help and help other people find it in the future. And then, yeah, the compost kits we can produce us. And yeah, there's loads more questions coming, but we're going to have to wrap it up. Thanks, everyone. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to more.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheerio, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Nice to see you all. Nice one, pal.